So what happens when the people who write our laws get in a room with the people who write our code? Well, a pretty incredible global summit on AI just gave us the answer. And this is the story of who was in that room, making decisions about all of our futures.
You know, as AI completely reshapes our world, it's the biggest question out there. Who's really in the driver's seat? Is it our governments, the people we elect, or is it the tech visionaries who are actually building these tools? A recent summit gave us the clearest answer yet, and honestly, it might surprise you.
So, to really get what happened here, we got to meet the players. First, we'll set the scene for this incredible gathering. Then we'll break down the three key groups holding all the cards: the rulemakers, the architects, and the umpires. And finally, we'll look at what it all means when you get them all together.
Okay, let's set the scene. First things first, forget everything you think of when you hear tech conference. This was different. This was a guest list of pure global power. And believe me, every single person in that room was handpicked for their influence over the future of AI.
I mean, just stop and think about that mix for a second. You've got the policymakers who actually write the laws, you've got the tech titans building the AI, and then you have the global institutions whose job it is to try and make everyone play nice. Getting them all in one room, that's almost unheard of, and it tells you the stakes have never, ever been higher.
Let's start with the first group, maybe the most obvious one, the rule makers. We're talking about heads of state, top ministers, the people with the actual power to create and enforce the laws that will eventually control AI.
And right off the bat, the whole thing was kicked off by the leader of the world's biggest democracy, Prime Minister Narendra Modi. That fact alone tells you this was a top-tier geopolitical event. This wasn't some sideline meeting. And it wasn't just about one part of the world either. President Emmanuel Macron of France, a huge voice in European policy, was right there. When you have multiple G20 leaders in the same room for the same conversation, you know it's been elevated to the absolute highest level of global politics. And just look at the depth here. It wasn't only the top leaders. You have the White House's top tech policy guy, an undersecretary of state from the US, key technology ministers. This proves that governments aren't just sending figureheads. They're sending their senior experts, the people who are ready to get into the weeds and actually shape AI policy.
Okay, now let's move to the second group, because sitting right across from those rule makers were the architects. And these are the people who are literally building our AI-powered future, from the first line of code to the chips that it runs on.
Of course, at the center of it all, you had the CEO of Google and Alphabet, Sundar Pichai. His company is at the absolute heart of the entire AI ecosystem, from the deep research all the way to the products that are in billions of people's hands.
And right there with him, Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI. I mean, with ChatGPT, his company basically dragged this technology into the global spotlight. Having those two guys in the room is like having the inventors of the printing press show up to a summit on the future of books. It's that fundamental.
But listen, when we say architects, it's about way more than just the big AI labs. It's the whole supply chain. We're talking chip makers like NVIDIA creating the hardware, the cloud giants providing the massive computing power, and yeah, the venture capitalists who are bankrolling whatever comes next. Every single piece of the puzzle was there, and this list just proves it. It's a who's who. You've got the top AI labs. You've got the chip giants, who are basically the new oil barons of our century. But look at this. You also have these massive industrial players from India, like Reliance and Tata. That shows you this isn't just a Silicon Valley party anymore. It's a full-on gathering of the entire global tech and industrial power structure.
And this right here, this is the core dynamic. On one side of the table, you have the political power to regulate everything. And on the other, you have the economic and technical power to innovate at a speed that governments just can't possibly keep up with. This summit was the room where those two massive forces met face to face.
But there was a third group in the room, and they play a really crucial role. Let's call them the world's umpires. These are the leaders from international bodies, the ones tasked with creating global standards and, well, trying to keep things stable.
When you have the UN Secretary-General himself, plus the head of the ITU and the World Bank's digital VP, that brings a whole different kind of authority to the room. Their job is to mediate, to find that common ground. And they're the ones asking the tough question. How do we make sure whatever rules get written don't leave the developing world behind? They're basically the referees in this very high-stakes game.
So, okay, we have the rule makers, the architects, and the umpires. Why does putting them all in one room actually matter? This is where it all comes together.
When you look at the breakdown of power in that room, it's pretty revealing.
The incredible weight of the tech industry, right there alongside government and international bodies. It shows us a new kind of power-sharing arrangement being formed, literally right before our eyes.
And that gets us to the most important takeaway of all. This summit wasn't just a talk shop. It was the public debut of a new coalition, a steering committee for the planet's most powerful technology. The guest list itself was a statement of intent.
So what is this new coalition actually trying to do? Well, the implied agenda is huge. First, they have to get on the same page about what the biggest risks even are. And there's a lot of debate there. Then, they have to try and define the rules of the road for how this stuff is developed. From there, the goal is to shape real international policy. If they can pull it off, this group will basically steer the direction of AI for a generation.
Which leaves us with one final and really vital question. When the handful of people who build this technology sit down with the handful of people who regulate it, is our future being decided for us? Is the script for the next chapter of human history being written in a room we weren't even invited to? That's the question we all need to be thinking about.